Hello, this is Katie Stocks from Happy Hearted Watercolors. I'm going to paint for you a beginning watercolor lesson that I call Family Outing in the Forest. You will need your watercolor paper. You will need a cool blue, a black, and a warm green. You will need a small brush. I've got a number 6 here. You could use this 8. And a larger brush. This is a 20, I believe. But you could use any larger mop brush. You'll need plenty of water and a positive mindset and a willingness to let the paint do its work. The first thing you're going to want to do is take your pencil and about 2/3 the way up from the bottom, make a hill that slides down about to 1/3. This will divide your sky from your snow-covered hill. The first thing you want to do is make a wet wash using your largest brush. I'm dipping my brush into my well of paint, big yogurt tub full of water, and I'm painting just with water the top part of what will become the sky and carefully going along the horizon line where the sky meets the hill. You want to go across so that you get a nice coverage, and then back up and down to make sure that every part of that paper gets painted. And you've already made yourself a excuse me, puddle of blue, your blue color, excuse me, with your blue paint, and go across the top for 2 strokes, then grab more paint, go across 2 times or more. And I'm going to, because this is so wet, I'm going to use some of the water and dip back into my paint well and add it into my lid. If you find it's too wet, you're going to want to do that. A lot of what you're doing here with watercolor is adjusting for the conditions that you find yourself in. You'll notice that it's a bit streaky, but still shiny and a bit puddly. The goal is to have all the puddles smoothed out before you add the salt. I think I forgot to mention that you needed salt for this. You need a little cup of salt. And the next part is what I call rock and roll. You're tipping your paint palette up. And that's my little Madeline, or little Alma wanting to get in. And spreading that paint around as smoothly as you can by tipping forward and backwards, up and down. And only when that paint stops moving completely will you stop moving your paper. This is one of the reasons that I like a Gator board to put my painting on, because it allows me to rock and roll and have a little more control of the water as it's sliding around. And as you can see, there's still water over here at the edge, so I still need to keep tipping. Now there are streaks going left to right, so I want to tip up and down. And you can tell here we've got a little bead of paint, so I want to make, and water, so I want to go spread that up to the top. And here we go again, going from left high, low right. Now right high, low left. Now the top is high. This sometimes takes a while, depending on how much water you've put on your painting and how much paint is there. The more paint, the darker the color, the more water, the lighter the color. But in order to make this smooth, you're going to need a lot of water. So make sure that you get your paint very, very intense into your water and a mixing bowl. Yogurt lids are perfect for that, especially if they're white. If you have a colored lid, it affects your view of the color that you've got in that bowl. So this is still moving. We're still rocking and rolling. Now once we get to the point where we think, gosh, we're almost done, I'm going to leave the one side up and have the paint all slide to one side. I don't know if the camera is picking up this. It's a little bit drier right here along the edge, and I can tell because the paint and water are kind of stopping, and that will create a bloom. But once I'm finished rocking and rolling, I'm just going to take a paper towel or an old rag and slide along the red edge. I've got a little more here. So you don't want to put it on the paper. You just want to hold your paper towel at the very edge. And then you take a pinch of salt, like you're cooking. I've got a pinch of salt in here, my hands. And you can't see this, but my fingers are about 12 inches from the top of the painting. And I'm twisting my fingers so that the salt falls out onto the paper. And I want a nice smattering of salt on there. You can kind of see the salt starting to work. What the salt is doing is gathering in, drawing the water, the liquid in. This is a paper that I already did, and I learned a couple things from this. One, you'll notice there's a little river here. That's because I did have a bead of paint here that I didn't notice. The other thing I've learned is that what I've done is tip this up while it was drying instead of letting it dry flat. So there's a goal to dry this flat. Here's a picture of where we're going with this. You can see the dry painting. Here's another one that I did with the family on an outing towards the tree farm with the family dog and leaving some little footprints in the snow. So that's where we're going next. I'll grab this dry painting, ready to go. And my goal is to somehow let this work into maybe the path that the people are taking. And what we'll do is take this paint that we used for the sky and grab some of the black and mix it into the blue. What I'm trying to do is create a color harmony so that nothing looks like it's out of place. It looks like it all belongs in the same painting. And I'm using this tri paper to create or to check out my colors to see if they're okay. This feels a little dry, so I'm going to reach my brush into the water, get a load of paint. Okay, so let's grab a little more black, put it in here, roll it around. Okay, carefully move this paint. Okay, now my people, we've practiced this in class the other night, but we're doing what I call carrot people, and I learned this from a video, so I can't, on YouTube, so I can't claim knowledge of this, but I'm going to make carrot people by taking and making the shoulders like the top of the carrot where it's fattest, and just kind of making the bottom part of the carrot root go down where it's skinny, and then add another one, and then we need a little head. We've got the shoulders here, so let's just get an arm there, and I'm going to pretend like we've got a dog right here, and the dog is basically a rectangle with a tail, and we're going to make a leash go to this dog this time, and then we've got a head. We don't have to finish this leash off because the viewer's eyes will complete that for them without them even knowing. This happens to be a Scotty, and it's quite a large Scotty, or maybe a Schnauzer. Schnauzer's a better idea because as I look at the relationship of the size of the dog to the person, I notice that he is almost up to the man's waist. In fact, he's taller. Maybe he's an Irish Wolfhound. This is one of the things that I call letting the painting paint itself. So here we have another person. They're going up the hill, and up here we're going to make some trees. Let's make this one of the children in the family, and the children are shaped the same. They've got a head and a top of the carrot with a shoulder, and this little guy is a little farther down the hill. We'll get his little legs moving there, and he's holding on to Dad's hand. Okay, there he is walking up the hill. Let's have the other adult member of the family with their shoulders and their leg. And maybe another, maybe they're carrying a basket of something. So let's put a little basket here. There's their picnic dinner, picnic lunch while they're out in the field. And since we're pretending like this is my family, I'm going to put another child. There's the top of the shoulders. I'm going to put a little hat on this one. No, Alma. No, Alma. Scratching the door. Now the next part is to take this same paint, add some water into it so that it's a lighter color. You want this to be really light because this is the footprints that they're making in the snow. And I'm holding the paintbrush right at the very end and letting it my hand kind of shake a little bit as as we draw in the people's feet. Going up to the hill. This little guy's been running around a little bit because he's a kid. He's a little more adventurous. Now I want to do the dog. And the dog, before they got that leash on him, he was running all over the place. So we're going to make him be quite busy on the hill. And we're kind of covering up that little river that we created. Okay, now Dad. Here's Dad's. Okay, so they've come over there. Now we're ready for the trees. So I want to clean my brush off because I'm going to take my brush into that warm green and grab some a good amount of warm green in my brush, load it in, and just take a little bit of this color that we've got right here already. And again, we're creating unity of color because we're using that black, we're using the blue. I want to test my color. Always test your color to make sure you like it. That's a little intense. So that looks better to me right here. And just kind of remind myself how those trees go. I'm going to make a line and squiggly wiggly my trees. Now this tree is going to be tall. And I don't want it to start right in the very middle of the painting. What I want it to do is maybe be a little less than 2/3 of the way up. And because my arm needs to go in a way that works for it, I'm making a nice straight line, sort of straight. And starting at the top, I'm doing little squiggly wigglies. And going down, leaving spaces. See the space right here? Because these are Douglas firs, just so you know. These Douglas fir have spaces in between. And here we come down. This is quite a large tree. I would say that it is farther in the foreground than the people are, just looking at the size. And because I kind of went off kilter, I'm going to try to repair that a little bit by redirecting my eye so that I can go from the center here. Again, squiggly wiggly is the term, and you will not find this in any art book. Okay, there's my biggest tree. Now I want to get a little more water on my brush without taking all the paint off, and I'm making a lighter color of a tree because it's farther away. This tree is going to be clear up here, and it's not going to be as dark because it's farther away. The atmosphere takes away some of the colors that our eye can see. So this one's a little farther away, and this looks a little dark. So what I'm going to do is touch my rag that I've got sitting by my workstation and get it, my brush kind of dry, and pull up a little bit of that paint. So there's our tree that's farther up the hill, and I'm now going to go and get just a little bit of the shadow color that we have over here and see what that looks like. That looks good. And I'm just going to put a little shadow under this tree and this tree. It'll kind of ground it a bit so that it looks like it's not floating in the air. And extend the shadow one way or the other. I think I'll extend it to the left. Okay, now I've got two trees there. It's best to have groups of 3, 5, 7, in other words, odd numbers. Notice we've got 5 people in this family. We've got 2 trees here, so I need to have another tree. This one's going to be more in a more medium size. It's going to be not as far as this one, not as close as this one. And also I want to make them different distances apart from, I want to make this one a different distance apart from the other one and at a different height. So that's about an inch. I'm going to take about 3/4 of an inch and also start the tree at a different height. So here we go with our trunk. And squiggly wiggly all the way down. Leaving some spaces in between the branches because again this is a Douglas fir. And last but not least, let's put a grounding for this tree too. So I'm going back to my darkest blue and black, checking again the color. Make sure it's the color that I want to have under this tree so that it is grounded. Okay, there we have it. Family outing in a forest. Have fun. If you'd like to take a picture of this on your screen so that you've got something to work from, go ahead. Happy painting.